Well, to any, I guess, to any sponsors out there who are listening, and if I decide to leave this part in or not, sponsor us. It's great. You'll probably have Alex's mom investing in your product.
Oh my god. Oh my god, don't say that. Oh my god. She
sorry.
won't, just to spite you.
I'm sorry. Okay, I think that's our intro. Oh, don't show her this episode.
I don't have control over that.
Oh no.
She will watch it if she wants to, or listen to it. Anyway, should we get started?
Just one other thing too, Alex's mom personally, thank you for supporting this. It means a lot. And then oh my god, I'm embarrassed.
You said it. This is all on you, buddy.
I know, and that's why I'm trying to save face. I don't buy it. Just go to fucking therapy.
If I develop Sims, delete the channel.
Fuck capitalism. We need to start a revolution.
And you know what? I'm gonna say it.
I can't replace a fire alarm on my own. Technically, 25 is technically you.
Sing your morning routine.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dean, and welcome back to the InkGuild podcast. Tonight, I have Alex.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about Cassandra Clare, the author who is most famous for the, I guess, Shadowhunters series of books, including The Mortal Instruments, the Infernal Devices, and the Dark Artifices. I think that's what the new series of books is.
That's not what the new series is. Her newest one is The Last Hours? The Last Hours, yes. The Dark Artifices is also in there, though.
Okay. So, we have a lot to touch on, but I guess before we get into that, let's do a check-in. We didn't do a check-in last episode, so we're going to be doing that right now. And for me, I guess unfortunately, because I am the, I guess not just the host of the podcast, but also the one who edits the videos, I've been a little bit busy maintaining the channel. So really the only story that I've been kind of, being able to read was Mask of Mirrors, which I recommended a couple episodes ago. It's a really interesting series. Like it's very vivid already, and just the cover alone, like I've only made it past chapter 2. Like I'm a pretty slow reader when I'm busy, but yeah, it's really good. It's got like I don't want to get too much into it, but it's got pretty good. It's pretty good. I've lost my train of thought.
But is it good, Dean?
It's good. It's very good. It's a good start. Oh god, I'm gonna have to start a good counter. How many times am I gonna say that today?
Probably not much after we get started.
Shh. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, Alex, how about you? Let's check in with you.
Is this like what I've been reading or what I've been writing?
Just both, if you want.
Well, I'm still working on my reread of the Grisha verse books. I am on Crooked Kingdom right now, and enjoying it a lot again. As for writing, well, I had a really vivid dream last night that was like kind of terrifying. And also, I realized that I have 2 characters that I haven't done anything with, so I may or may not have started plotting a new story.
Oh my. That both does not and does surprise me.
It's not like very well worked out yet. It's mostly just an idea at this point, but
Fair enough.
I think it could be fun.
Cool. So yeah, that was the check-in, everybody. And I guess with that out of the way, let's now just get straight into the topic for tonight. This is going to be a pretty interesting episode because I'm not sure if like how many of you have been listening in before on these, but there's only one other author so far that like I guess we know of that Alex has strong opinions of aside from Sarah J. Maas, and that is Cassandra Clare, who like I said is pretty much the face of the Shadowhunters books. I don't know if she's really deviated away from that, but she is most well known for these books. And like in our friendship, and I guess just like, you know, through the podcast, Alex has been very vocal sometimes about a lot about Cassandra Clare, more so than Sarah J. Maas. So why not dedicate an episode to it? Just a few restrictions before, or just a few things before we get into it. What Alex's opinions aren't exactly positive a lot of the time, so please do keep that in mind. We are saying this out of respect for Cassandra Clare's work. Maybe not necessarily her as a person, but as an author, she is still a well-known figure, and we believe that authors deserve to be critiqued where possible. As well, we'll be making some jokes here and there. We are also a comedy podcast, so if they're not funny, oh shit, we fucked up. But aside from that also, yeah, I think more or less just these are going to be just our respective opinions, and for the sake of transparency, I myself have very little knowledge to work off of because I have been, like I said, been pretty busy with other projects and maintaining the channel, so I will unfortunately be listening in a lot, so maybe my opinion isn't always going to be weighing in, but again, this is more or less just Alex vents hour.
My God.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Dean said, my opinion of these books, I'm not a fan, but I do want to look at this as like a critique of, like, you know, what I think, like what I think works, what I think doesn't work, because I think that's important stuff to be aware of when you're a writer. And all that being said, if you are a fan of these books, more power to you. We all have different tastes in things, and like if you can find things you like about these books and you really like them, that I'm like that. This is just my opinion. You're allowed to like the books.
Oh my God.
You're allowed to like the books. I don't get it, but you're allowed to.
I can just see like Alex biting her lip as she said that. Just.
I genuinely mean it. You're allowed to like the books. I don't, but you're allowed to.
There it is.
I promise.
That's what I was looking for. So, how tonight will work is we're gonna be splitting the discussion, I guess, into four main topics, or I guess four main areas of conversation. That is the world building of the Shadowhunters universe, the characters within the Mortal Instruments, Infernal Devices, Dark Artifices, and the Last Hours, I guess, as well as...
We won't be getting that far because I haven't read that far.
Okay, well, we'll just be looking at what we're familiar with. Then we're going to be looking at the plot, and then just a more or less reflection on Cassandra Clare as a whole, because we're also not just going to be one other thing, but we're also not just going to be accounting for just solely the books. I feel it important to also reflect on the movies, because while she may not have directed it, it is still her work, and how that is depicted is pretty much a point of reference to, I guess, just to how like impactful her work has been. So I think with all of that being said, and with no other restrictions and kind of warnings being said, let's get into the books, or let's get into it. So we're starting off with world building, and pretty much so I guess just to kind of set up, I remember the Mortal Instruments being set mostly around New York or some kind of area like that, like some kind of urban, some kind of urban
New York.
neighborhood. Oh, okay.
It's New York.
Sweet. I think if I remember, if I do remember the research that I was able to do, it was set around New York. So I just wanted to make sure. But that's the Mortal Instruments. I don't know where else they kind of take it after City of Glass, because that was the last one that I was really familiar with. I know Infernal Devices was set in Victorian Europe, possibly.
Victorian England.
Victorian England. And I'm not sure where the
Dark Artifices.
The Dark Artifices. Oh my god, I lost track of it.
In Los Angeles.
Ooh. I think that was set in the future, right? Like after the events of the Mortal Instruments. That's
they're like they take like a few years after the Mortal Instruments.
okay.
And her 5th series, which isn't out yet, which is called The Wicked Powers, is a sequel to the Dark Artifices and takes place like a few years after those finish.
Okay. So, and then I think there's a couple one-off books. I remember.
Yeah, there's
the
a couple
Bane
short story
Chronicles?
collections. Yeah, there's the Bane Chronicles and there's the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy.
Mm-hmm. So within these books, it is set within the world of the Shadowhunters, who are basically. I know I'm probably butchering this, but I always assumed that they were just monster hunters. Very young, very agile, and very like badass, supposedly monster hunters with very unique markings on them. And Cassandra Clare has pretty much established her own world within our world. So let's get into that. Alex, do you want to start off?
Yeah, so I'll start by expanding on what Shadowhunters are. Specifically, They are Nephilim, which are half angel people. So they have angel blood in them, which is what gives them like the ability to do cool stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is then like the markings are referred to as runes. And
Right, yeah.
only Nephilim can wear them. If like a human gets put them on, it like burns them or something. I don't remember all the details, it's been a while. But yeah, like humans can't wear them. And the runes are basically used to like power them up, so they can have like a glamour rune group, blah blah blah. They can have a glamour rune, for example, which will basically turn them invisible to anyone without the sight. Which the sight is not a Cassandra Clare exclusive term. That's something that's been used across many things and is used to refer to like people. If you have the sight, you can see supernatural things that would be otherwise invisible to like a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Shadowhunters, they're half angel people. They hunt demons for the most part. So there's your world building. Angels and demons exist. You have half angel people, the Nephilim or the Shadowhunters. You also have half demon people, which are warlocks. And then there's also the Seelies and the Unseelies, which are like fairies. So fairies exist. They have their own realm that can be accessed through like portals, basically. And then there's also vampires and werewolves, which are, I believe, in her canon, like diseases that like originated or have a demonic origin. That's a better way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So those exist. There's also like mermaids, I think, but the mermaids never do anything in these books. They're just kind of mentioned occasionally, and you're like, oh, there's mermaids? Okay. I wonder if they're important, and then they're not.
I mean, I guess respect to that. Like you have to help populate your urban fantasy with some fantasy, which I'll touch on in a second actually, but like that's that's a really interesting thing that maybe may or may not be necessary.
Yeah, they're just mentioned sometimes. It always catches me off guard, and I'm just like, oh right, there's mermaids in this world.
Do them okay, I guess now that we're getting into it, do the mermaids really have any kind of like plot significance?
No, I just like there's a part in one of the books. I think it's in the Infernal Devices, where there's like a meeting in London between a bunch of the representatives of the downworld and the Shadowhunters. The downworld being the like catch-all term for any of the non-human creatures. Like downworlders include vampires, werewolves, warlocks, and the fairies,
Right.
and also the mermaids. But there's like a scene in one of the books in the Infernal Devices where they're having like a meeting between a bunch of representatives, and it's mentioned that there's like a mermaid just chilling in the in a tank, like talking to them, and she lives in like the River Thames or whatever, and then like is never mentioned again.
Does this mermaid play any kind of significance to pushing the plot along, or is it just actually a mention?
Like, it's been too long since I actually read the book, but I do know that there was a mermaid mentioned at some point.
Okay, because if it... okay, hold on. Because in my understanding of personally how I write stories and how a lot of things are introduced in, especially fantasy stories, introducing like such wild concepts and especially wild creatures, like it's nice to know, but it's even nicer if said thing has like a major plot significance, because otherwise it's like, I think we had touched upon this in a previous episode actually, but it's just like overfilling your world. I think like there are like like I guess in a really weird example, there are like what 7 billion people on Earth right now, and really I'm not having a podcast with like all 7 billion of them, right? We're only focusing on like what's happening right now. And suddenly if you kind of go too far into, I guess basically my point is, if it's not significant, what the fuck?
Okay, I did look it up on the Shadowhunters fandom page just because I was curious. There's like barely anything on here, by the way. It's like a really short article, but it does say that they're a type of fairy. So they're not like separate from the fairies. They're just, yeah, they're a fairy apparently.
Okay, I think we're spending a little too much time on what isn't really furthering the plot.
Anyway,
cool to know, I guess.
More world building stuff, I guess. After that, the Shadowhunters, because they hunt demons to protect the mundanes, as they call humans.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they call them mundanes.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Dean, we don't have time for this.
We have all the time in the world, Alex. It's just us.
I know. Yeah, they're called mundanes, which is a choice.
Okay,
We'll probably come back to that later because I have some thoughts on her, the way she deals with like race politics in these books.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll let you introduce the thing. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
But yeah, so because it's their job to like protect the mundanes from demons and stuff, they have these buildings called institutes scattered around the world. In the first book, we're introduced to the New York Institute. I'd like to also add that in the first book, there are literally 4 people living in the institute. The institutes are also built in churches because, like, you know, the Judeo-Christian imagery and stuff is, like, bad for the demons. Like, they can't enter churches. So all their institutes are built in, like, churches and stuff. And there's a lot of, like, Judeo-Christian imagery. But yeah, there's literally 4 people living in this giant building that are supposed to protect all of New York, and 3 of them are teenagers, because that's a great system. There's also a secret Shadowhunter country that I don't remember the name of right now. What is it called? This is gonna bother me. Idris. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think Idris is the country and Alicante is the city. So yeah, there's a secret Shadowhunter city and a secret Shadowhunter country somewhere in Europe. We really don't know all that much about it. which is impressive considering we actually go there in this story a few times. But there's also in Idris somewhere, there's the Shadowhunter Academy, which is where Shadowhunters go to train, except they don't very often in the actual books.
Oh my god.
It's like the Shadowhunter Academy is mentioned as like a plot thing. Like, so the main villain of the first 3 books is a man named Valentine Morgenstern, which is a name. And it's mentioned that like he was a student at the Shadowhunter Academy, and he made a bunch of friends. And then all of his friends became like his followers when he decided to take over the world, basically. And
love that. That's a motivation.
we will talk more about Valentine later because I have some opinions about him.
All right.
As a villain. But so that's like how the Shadowhunter Academy is mentioned. And then I think at some point it's mentioned that it was closed after that happened for a while. And then post book 6, I want to say, which is the City of Heavenly Fire. That's what it's called.
That's a name.
Post City of Heavenly Fire. Simon, who's one of the main characters, goes to the Shadowhunter Academy, which is like reopening. To like basically become a Shadowhunter. And then you get to spend a little bit of time there, and it's like you know when you read like books written for very young kids, and they're like, wow, school sucks, I have to eat slimy porridge, and all the rooms like leak, and there's water everywhere. That's what the Shadowhunter Academy is like. It's like comically awful, like to almost the point of like disbelievability.
Oh my god. Okay. Can we start getting into at least like the world building behind the mortal instruments, because oh wow, there are some things that I want to discuss.
Oh yeah, I guess we should talk about the mortal instruments themselves.
Yeah. Well, we can touch on that after, but first let's kind of entertain the, like, I guess just this first series, really, where a lot of things are introduced. Couple things I want to get into, and we can kind of choose your own adventure. So let's see. The Christian, like what is this? The Christian motifs, I think, and themes. So angels, demons, churches, that I want to talk about, but also for some reason the Shadowhunter Academy thing, everything that you had been talking about. So yeah, which one do you want to get into, Alex?
Okay, so you said the Christian themes. There's a lot of Christian imagery. I would not say there's a lot of Christian themes in these books.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I was mixing the two up.
Yeah, I mean, then again, I also if we're going to talk about that, then I have to kind of say I don't think there really are any themes in these books. They're just about hot people making out and having relationship drama. That's
okay,
the
then,
plot.
Yeah, maybe not themes, but the imagery.
Yeah, there's... Yeah. I'm like not even really sure how to like talk about it. It's just there, like, again, she draws a lot on like the Judeo-Christian mythology, and I'm including Judaism in this because one of the main characters is Jewish. And that also like plays a little bit into the story. But yeah, there's angels and demons. It's never really confirmed if there's like a god in this universe. Like, you'd assume there must be because angels exist, but like it's never said one way or the other whether god or a god exists. The Shadowhunters, God, what is his name? There's an angel that created Shadowhunters. It's bothering me that I don't remember what his name is right now.
Okay. Oh, okay. I guess
what?
while you think on that, I guess
Raziel.
All right.
Raziel. It's Raziel.
Yeah. Like, I guess the reason why I wanted to touch on this in terms of the world building was because, oh my god, there have been so many stories that, like, I guess understandably tend to lean into into that kind of, or into those kinds of aspects about Christian imagery, like angels, demons,
used it too,
crosses.
yeah.
Angels, demons, crosses, churches, holy water as weapons. Like, it's all fascinating. Like, and objectively, like, if you can try to put your own spin on it, that's pretty cool. But like, damn, that was, I guess upon further reflection, like, I'll give credit where credit's due, and this is more just giving praise. Like, if I remember correctly from what I've seen of like the fucking, what is it, like the movie and the TV show, when they had to choose, apparently they choose like cathedrals as their home base or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty nice. They do know,
look great.
Yeah, like visually it's nice seeing these like locations like fleshed out, I guess, from an exterior perspective. I don't remember what they really look like on the interior. It's more or less just like, is it still like just the same church but with different like meeting rooms and shit? I don't know.
There's like a shit ton of bedrooms, most of which are empty because, again, in the book there's literally like 5 when Clary moves in, living in this institute. One of the things I really liked in the TV show adaptation, like, for the record, I've never watched the movie, but in the TV show adaptation, one of the things I really appreciated was that they added more people to the institute in New York. So there was always movement and people like doing stuff that I really appreciated that, because I always thought the institute was like weirdly empty in the books.
Yeah, it makes the thing. It makes like the institute more like an institute, not like a cult.
Yeah, because literally in the book, the only people living there are Izzy and Alec, who are siblings, Jace, who is their like adopted brother, sort of, and then Hodge, who's their teacher. Like, their parents aren't there. Alec and Izzy's younger brother isn't there, and then Clary moves in. So there's like 5 people living in this massive building.
It goes from a whopping 4 to 5. Good work.
And literally these, I can't even say these 4 people, because Hodge is literally like not allowed to leave the institute because he's being punished for following Valentine. So it's these 3 teenagers are responsible for protecting all of New York from demons.
Oh god.
All of them.
Okay, I guess we can touch on that when we get onto the plot. But like, yeah, I mean, like, that's probably one of the things that I want to talk about in regards to what you have been talking about so far. The other one was like the whole like, I honestly just find it funny because like how Simon was describing the institute as like this shitty place that, like, you know, and you were saying that like, oh, school sucks and shit, and how that kind of relates into that. Why do authors do that?
I don't know.
Like, I get that junior high and high school sucks, but shit, that's so common, especially I think probably in the time period where like thing, and this is not like a serious critique by any means. It's just more like, bruh.
It's also like, it's supposed to be this like cool, prestigious school that like a lot of people want to get. It's also more of, at least by the time Simon goes there, it's more of a university than like a high school.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, you'd kind of expect it to be like this great, like amazing, prestigious like university type place, and instead it's I'm pretty sure it's even in a castle, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my god. Okay, well, I guess by comparison, there's this series that Brooke had introduced me to a while ago, the Shadow Me series, and by the end of book 1, spoilers for that, by the way, but the main character Juliet finds herself with a organization, or kind of like an underground uprising, I guess, and said location is very full to the brim with like life and character. It's not just like you have your kind of key group of like obvious like side characters to the main protagonist, but aside from that, like, it feels very alive for what is essentially like an underground place. And by comparison, if it's, I guess, like, if it's supposed to be this like prestigious academy, why is it written as if it's a fucking junior high school?
I don't know. I did look it up briefly as you were saying that, just to like get a sense, and it said it's because Simon is not a Shadowhunter student; he's a human student. Is this too late into the episode to say spoilers for all of the books?
The book was released in like late 2000s, or like what? Like City of Bones was late 2000s.
2007, yeah.
Holy fuck. Okay, that's a lot longer than I thought it would be.
But yeah, still, just FYI. But yeah, so Simon is a human student at the Shadowhunter Academy, which apparently means he has to sleep in the basement. Because again, there's a lot. These books deal with a lot of racial politics between like the Shadowhunters and the mundanes and the downworlders, in which like mundanes are heavily looked down upon by Shadowhunters. So
can we talk about that now?
Do we want to talk about that now? Yeah. Do we want to talk about the racism that accompanies it as well? Because
I mean, it is part of the world, right? Like, we can touch on how it affects the characters, but on a broader scope, we can talk about it now. Because like, I'm not familiar with it. Like, I only really made it to City of Glass. Keep in mind.
Yeah, but like, I just mean like the way like real world racism kind of is attached to it. Like, pretty much all of her characters of color in the first book, all of her characters of color in the first trilogy are downworlders, which are considered like pretty much the worst thing you can be besides an actual demon in the world.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so there's very much a hierarchy, like a racial and societal hierarchy in the books, where like Shadowhunters have this immense superiority complex, and this is one of like my biggest issues with the books. Like, I'll talk more about like the tokenism in her later books later, but like in this series, it's you have all the main characters are white, and all of them are Shadowhunters. So you have Jace with his golden hair and his golden eyes and his golden skin, because he's so beautiful and angelic that he's basically carved from gold. And you have Alec and Izzy are both white, and Clary's obviously white. They're all Shadowhunters. Then you have Simon, who is the Jewish character in the book. And I do say the Jewish character very specifically. He's the Jewish character. He starts off the book as human. By the end of the first book, he's a vampire, which is one of the races of downworlders. The other characters of color in the book include Magnus Bane, who is a warlock. I believe he is Indonesian. And he is so like his mother was Indonesian and his father was a demon. Then you have Maya, who is the black character. Specifically, she's biracial. That is heavily emphasized throughout the books. I'm not putting that in there for no reason. So she's half black, half white. She is a werewolf, another race of downworlders. And then the other one of note is Raphael, who is Latino, and he's a vampire as well. Specifically, I think he's the vampire that turns Simon. So, 3 characters of color and a Jewish character. All of them are downworlders, which are considered inferior to both humans and to Shadowhunters. I would just like to point that out.
Oh my god. I guess in my exaggerated annoyance, I guess, like it is worth noting that this was written in the late 2000s, early 2010s, back when, at a time where like diversity in the media was something that apparently people were still like doing. Like it wasn't as prominent as it is now, I guess. So it's worth like keeping that into context. But at the same time, it is still the 2000s.
Yeah, it is. It is worth noting that. It is also worth noting that the main plot of these books is basically, like racial superiority is bad.
Oh my god.
However, and this is like most obvious with Simon. Simon starts off as a mundane. He becomes a vampire. At the end of the series, at the end of the Mortal Instrument series, he becomes a human again, loses all of his memories of the downworld, and then gets his memories back and goes to the Shadowhunter Academy and becomes a Shadowhunter. Like he drinks the angel blood and ascends to Nephilim. So like it kind of feels like she's saying, at least subtextually, that Shadowhunters are superior to all other beings.
Ugh. Oh no, that's a yikes, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess this is probably just with the Mortal Instruments. How, like, are you familiar with the other depictions of races in the other series? Because like I'm not.
It's been too long since I read the Infernal Devices, but I remember. Okay, this is another thing. I pointed out that Maya was biracial. Magnus Bane is also like he's technically biracial because one of his parents is a demon, but like he had a stepfather that was a white man. So even if he hadn't been half demon, he would have also been biracial. One of the main characters in the Infernal Devices is also biracial. He is half Chinese, half English, I think. Which is another trend I've noticed in her writing that comes up a lot. I don't know what it means. I just thought I'd point it out. And like I don't want to say like, biracial is obviously like an identity that people have, but I just find it interesting that like almost all of her characters of color are biracial, half white specifically. It's something I just find interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But other than Jem, who again is biracial, I think all the other characters in the Infernal Devices were white. In the Dark Artifices, I'm pretty sure there is there's like one character of color. She's Latina. Everyone else is white.
Oh my god. When was this is Infernal Devices, right?
No, this is the Dark Artifices.
Dark Artifices. That's the most recent series. So that's like mid 2010s.
So, yeah. The Lady Midnight, the first book in this series, was released in 2016.
Oh my.
Lord of Shadows was released in 2017. Queen of Air and Darkness was released in 2018.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
I don't know anything about The Last Hours, which is the book series that she's releasing right now, because I haven't read it. But I know that they're a continuation of the Infernal Devices books and follow like the children of the characters in the Infernal Devices.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that most of them are also probably white.
I hate to bring up comparisons because we're analyzing, or I guess we're critiquing Cassandra Clare in this episode, but like we had recently done our Shadow and Bone episode, and in that series too, I think I kind of got the impression that a majority of the characters from the original book were white. However, when you visualize it from the books to an adaptation, most people, when they see Shadow and Bone, see a very diverse cast of characters, right? Like we had, like it has been kind of stated, like the main protagonist, Alina Starkov, she's been made half Shu, which was great. Like that allows them to cast a person of color for their show. But when I think of like both adaptations of the Mortal Instruments, just the Mortal Instruments, between the movie and the TV show, it's so white.
Yeah,
It's as white as a fucking Christmas here in Calgary.
Yeah. I think they made the Lightwood family like Latino in the TV show, but they're still very white passing. So they also made Luke black in the TV show. He's not black in the books. He's white in the books.
All right, well, I guess there's that then. I guess that probably touches on the race, on like the distinct races. And while we're still talking on world building, let's talk about.
I just realized I didn't even mention like the half fairy stuff and like the attitudes towards the fairy people.
Oh yeah, do it.
Because in the Mortal Instruments, you're introduced to these two characters, Mark and Helen, I want to say their names are, who are also, at least Mark is also a character in the Dark Artifices because he's like the older sibling of one of the main characters,
right,
in that book. And so Mark and Helen, I'm pretty sure her name is Helen. Yes, Helen. Helen and Mark are both, like, one of their parents was a Shadowhunter and the other is a fairy. And so they have, like, the pointed ears that fairies have. And they are treated absolutely horrifically by everyone else. Like, I think Helen's story ends with her being outcast to, like, this little tiny outpost in northern Russia where she's basically has to live by herself. And Mark is kidnapped and tortured by a bunch of fairies at some point. I'd also like to point out this is not like to do with the races, but both of these characters are queer. I believe Helen is a lesbian and Mark is like bisexual. And both of them get treated really badly. Which I didn't even mention when it comes to the other characters of color in the first books, where, like, Maya in particular has a shit ton of bad luck. Like, she had an abusive boyfriend. She dated Simon for a while, but he cheated on her. Then she got back together with her abusive boyfriend, who then died. And then she started dating this other guy who I think also died. I might not be remembering that correctly. But basically, like, she had, like, a shit ton of bad luck in relationships. And, like, these books are about the relationship drama, but her relationships in particular are, like, particularly noteworthy when she's the only black character in your books.
It's... Oh, wow. Like, holy shit. I remember saying, like, it keeps flashing into my head that these were stories in the in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Like, to some degree, I can kind of understand a lot of things about this. Like, queer rep was still very much, like, not as common as it is nowadays, and if at the very least, like, it was queer coded, and with different races and stuff, like, not a lot of like big projects in general were very diverse. But it still amazes me that this is like a 2010 or like a late 2000s, early 2010s series, and the diversity is and diversity in general is lacking so much.
Can we do the diversity thing right now, actually?
Let's do it.
Because I have more to say about it, on it. In the Dark Artifices in particular, I always, like, I've seen a lot of people praise these books for having a more diverse cast, not necessarily in, like, racially, but, like, just, like, in general. Like, you know, there's more queer characters. There's one character who's, like, fat. There's one character who is, like, autistic coded. there's a transgender character. But to me, reading because to also be clear, I haven't read Queen of Air and Darkness. I've only read the first 2 books in this trilogy. But when I was reading them, I remember going like, it feels like she has a checklist of like a diversity checklist to go. Okay, I need one character of color. Okay, Christina, check. Okay, I need one character that's not like perfect, skinny, like athletic build. Okay, Drusilla. Okay, check. Who also, on the note of Drusilla, who is the like overweight character, she's like 14 in these books and is extremely sexualized, which bothers me a lot. Yeah. So that's like the overweight, over-sexualized, underage character. Check. There's
Oh my god.
Again, I'd mentioned Mark. I'm pretty sure he's bisexual. He has like a love triangle thing going on with 2 of the characters, Kieran, who's also a fairy, and then Christina. And I haven't read the last book, but I'm pretty sure they're like in a polyamorous relationship. So, there's like the queer rep check. And then there's Diana.
Oh no.
Okay,
Who is Diana? I guess
Diana is...
Okay, yeah, who's Diana?
I guess we're going into characters right now.
Yeah.
Diana is the transgender character. I am prefacing this by just coming out and saying it because I don't want to do what the books did. But so basically, Diana was, I think, the teacher of like the main or like instructor of the Los Angeles Institute. So she takes care of like what the fuck are their names? The Blackthorn and Carstairs families who live there. So the 2 main...
Are those surnames?
Yes.
Yep, okay, right. Those are surnames.
That's one of the world building things that I didn't mention about this book. All of the characters, like the Shadowhunter families, have surnames like that are like 2 words like smushed together. So, Blackthorn, Herondale, Carstairs, Fairchild. Like they're all like that, except, the ones that aren't in English, because those kinds of names don't really work in other languages as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, that's just a little thing. But yeah, so Diana is the teacher / instructor at the Los Angeles Institute. She has basically like raised Emma and Julian, who are like the main characters of that trilogy. In the second book, she meets this dude who's like the head of the fairy hunt, the wild hunt. The dude that kidnapped Mark and tortured him for like 5 years. What a great love interest. Wow. And it's...
Okay.
And, these books kind of deal with like... They try to deal with like mysteries and stuff. So the kids are trying to unveil this mystery. And they're like, oh, I think Diana has a secret. She has a secret. We should try to figure out what it is. And so, there's this whole build-up throughout the whole second book about, like, what's Diana's secret? Oh my god, is she a terrible person? Does she murder children? And then, like, near the end of the book, it's revealed that her secret is that she's transgender. And just, like, the way it's dealt with...
Oh, no.
The way it's dealt with is it's like, built up like this huge, big... secret that is gonna change everything, and then it's literally just that she's transgender.
Dude, I fucking quit. I don't want to do this anymore.
Do you see why I have an issue with these books now?
Okay. Yeah, one of many apparently.
Yeah. But yeah, just the way it's dealt with is just incredibly insensitive, in my opinion.
It's very incredibly sensitive. It's like certainly by modern standards, but like
again, this book came out in 2017.
Oh my god, that's
like what, 4 years ago? Like that's not that long ago. Oh yeah, and then And then there's also the character who is autistic coded. I don't think it's ever stated outright that he is, but it's like very heavily implied.
How so?
Tiberius? Is it Tiberius? I think it's Tiberius. He's like he's what it's like, you know, like the really cliche autistic representation where like, you know, closed off, doesn't talk much, really has like obsessive interests, doesn't like being around people, like really overly sensitive to stuff like loud noises and stuff like that.
Right.
Like it's like if you took like a like, you know, how every autistic, like a stereotypical autistic boy in media, he checks like every box.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, like it's good to have that representation, but also, is it good representation? I don't think so.
I mean, I don't have much of an opinion on it because I haven't read the book, right? But like, oh wow. I think when you're dealing with something as sensitive as like autistic characters too, that requires a lot of attention because obviously the spectrum is very the spectrum itself has many different kind of levels to it, and simply just checking off a very like a stereotypical list isn't good.
Yeah. And so, like I said, a lot of people have given her praise for like having a more diverse cast in these books, which like I get, but it literally feels like a checkbox.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I need one of each, and she's gone through and been like, yep, I have one of each. It's diverse. People are gonna like me and give me brownie points because look at me, I'm so woke. Like that's what it feels like to me.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's seriously one thing to have diverse characters for the sake of diversity, and then there's obviously characters for the sake of diverse characters for the sake of brownie points, which, you know, I don't know Cassandra Clare, and I don't know if that was her intent, but if it was seriously just like checkboxing like a list, oh dear.
Yeah,
that's not how you do it.
Actually, I want to go back to Drusilla for a minute too.
Okay.
Because I think this is an interesting one. Because she's the character that's overweight. Like I said, she's like 14 in the first book, is very sexualized to the point that it's kind of disturbing. Especially because these books actually I find aren't overly sexual. So the fact that it's this one character who happens to be overweight bothers me. But also world building wise, it doesn't like make sense. Like this sounds really stupid, but like if you look at all the rest of her characters have like the exact same body type. Like, you know, they're all perfectly athletic. You know, they all have like the perfect supermodel athletic build. Every single one of them. And then Drew just doesn't for some reason.
Yeah.
And she's the only one that doesn't, which makes it feel even more like she was just doing it to, you know, get brownie points from the body positivity movement.
Oh,
anyway.
Dear God. Oh my God. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess like, as you were saying that, like, just to kind of add on to that, like the like slim frame, but still very muscular thing is a very common, it's a very common body type within YA in general. So I guess that's kind of to a degree expected, but suddenly when everyone is like that and you only have 2 or 3 like it's one thing to have like the same kind of body type, but suddenly when all of them are like a majority of them are white, that's not thing. Like I think certainly for me at least, and this is just me speaking, I can't speak for Alex or for everybody, but like I've come to a point where you've kind of moved past that, and at the very least you've been more accepting of different body types in media. So like the fact that it's only one character in a story that came out in the late 2010s is wild to me, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because, again, I don't think she really cares about... This is my opinion. I can't speak for Cassandra Clare, obviously, but in my opinion, it feels, based on what I've read, that she doesn't care about, like, representation. What she cares about is having a bunch of hot characters to be in angsty love triangles with each other.
Which I fucking detest. And I guess certainly, like, if it was I guess to kind of say that, like, if her intent was to be more diverse and to I guess just to be more diverse with her cast in general, how it's been handled so far isn't great.
So basically my thing is, if you want to include diversity in your books, that's good. That's fantastic. Watch the way you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do your research, and don't use tokenism, because this is what this is. This is tokenism. Is she
Pretty
can
much,
point to each of them and be like, look, no, I have a character of color, I have a neurodivergent character, I have a queer character, therefore I am woke and my book is diverse. That's what it feels like. And even if that was not her intention, that's still like what it is. But a character can be more than that. A character can be queer and neurodivergent and a person of color. Fun fact, those people exist. Like, your character doesn't have to be one of them.
Yeah, that's literally my protagonist. A queer, biracial. It's possible. They exist.
Fun fact of the day.
Yeah. I guess while we're still on characters, let's kind of backtrack from from the Dark Artifices now and touch to, I guess, the snowstorm of white characters that we had in the Mortal Instruments.
Oh my god. Okay. Should we start with Clary?
Let's start with Clary.
God. Okay.
Okay.
What do I have to say about Clary?
Take as much time as you want. I'll just listen in and react accordingly.
So, Clary is the main character of the Mortal Instruments. She's 15 in the first book, which seems like really, really young. Her mother is a woman named Jocelyn Fairchild, and her father is the villain, Valentine Morgenstern. Fairchild. That's her name. I guess her full name, Clary's full name, is Clarissa Adele Fairchild Morgenstern.
Oh my fucking god!
Which is a mouthful.
It's the most YA name I've ever heard.
Also, I know we're talking about Clary and not Valentine, but I just want to point out that Morgenstern is German for morning star.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, if you want obvious villain names 101.
Oh dear. Okay, sorry. Keep going.
Sorry. We're talking about Clary. Clary's the main character. She's very much your typical YA protagonist. She's pretty but doesn't know she's pretty. She's fair-skinned, bright red hair, green eyes. Very, very YA protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Because, no one can have, like, brown eyes in YA books, because those aren't hot enough, I guess.
We're looking at you, Aelin. Just an FYI. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So that's what she looks like. Personality-wise, she's an artist. She likes to paint. This becomes relevant later when you find out that she's a super special Nephilim who has extra angel blood in her because her father fed angel blood to her mother while she was pregnant with Clary. So Clary has, like, extra angel blood, and because she has extra angel blood, she is able to basically create runes. Runes being the things that Shadowhunters use to, like, power themselves up and, like, give themselves magical abilities. No other Nephilim like no other Shadowhunter in the books can do this. This is something only Clary can do because she has extra angel blood. Other than that, like, I don't have anything else to say about like her personality because she doesn't really have one.
Ooh, get shaded on, redhead.
I'm like trying to remember anything about her personality. She falls in love with Jace over the course of like 2 weeks.
Okay, wait. We have to look up the YA protagonist checklist. Is she confrontational?
Yeah, she's a bit of a spitfire.
All right, that checks that box. She is obviously conventionally attractive,
but doesn't know it.
Yeah, that one extra thing that just makes them a cut above the rest in a very in a very egregious way. Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
What else? Learns how to fight after years worth of training in a day. Or learns how to fight
over the course of 2 weeks and is really good at it.
2 weeks?
Yeah. The first book takes place over the course of 2 weeks, and by the end of it, she like knows how to fight. As pretty much
weeks.
as well as the rest of the Shadowhunters who have been training their whole lives.
Oh my god. Okay, well checks that box. Love triangle?
Yep.
Several. Love triangle. Or several. All right. Check.
What else is on the list?
Bland is pie crust.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Okay.
Yeah, she's.
There you go. That's the thing. That's the YA protagonist checklist by the InkGuild.
I hate to say it because like I think this term is often like not used or like overused, I guess. But she's a Mary Sue.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna say boring.
She is also boring. She's also annoying. She's very
annoying.
And she really manifests that I'm not like other girls energy.
Oh my god.
Very, very like 2000s YA protagonist. Like she checks all the boxes, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, like in the series in the Authentic Observers Shadowhunters series that I will probably reference a lot throughout this. Like one of the things she points out is like she has to be like the perfect girl, like perfect and pure and innocent. So she's not allowed to be vain and find herself attractive. So when she needs like the makeover to become the hawk girl, someone else has to do it for her because she's not allowed to make herself attractive. She's not allowed to want to look good because that would be too vain. She very much captures that, you know. She's like the art girl who's like, oh, I like having paint on my face because it means I'm like beautiful, more beautiful this way than if I put effort into it. Like she captures that energy so well.
Okay. Oh dear. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll give credit where credit's due. I mean, good on Lily Collins and fucking I forgot what her name is in the show, but like, yeah, good on them for working with what they have, or for good on them for trying to do the best with what they've given.
Yeah.
Shit, now Catherine McNamara, I think that's what her name is.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
I think so. Yeah. Okay, small little thing that has nothing to do really with like our conversation, but it has something to do with Clary. The wig that they gave Catherine McNamara in the show is very bad. Personally, like I haven't seen the show, and I told myself I would watch the show before this, but even then, I just why? Who did that? Whose fault was that? Why did you do that?
That's funny. That's really funny. I have watched the show. I watched the show as it was airing, actually, like all the way through. Hot take, I think the show is better than the books. but the show is also still really bad. Anyway, should we talk about Jace?
Let's now talk about Jace, the sculpted from gold piece of white bread. God, I'm throwing out more roast than I thought you would.
That's really... Look, I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah. All right, well, one of us has to try.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about Jace, or as his full name, which is apparently Jonathan Christopher Lightwood Herondale.
Oh
so
my God.
yeah, so Jace. He's actually introduced in the first book as Jace Wayland, and then for a little while he's Jace Morgenstern, and then he finds out that his biological parents were the Herondale, so he's Jace Herondale.
I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get there probably right after this, because that's kind of important. And then so Jace is the love interest, Clary's love interest, I should say, her main love interest. Technically, Simon is also a love interest, but that doesn't go anywhere because she's just using him. But anyway, so Jace is
the side hoe he is.
He's a bad boy. He is the bad boy with a tortured past who's kind of an asshole, but it's okay because he secretly has a heart of gold archetype. That's who he is.
Oh, I love those. I love those. It's not like we haven't seen that already in the Hunger Games.
That's literally his entire personality. He's awful to Clary, but it's okay because he secretly has a heart of gold and actually really loves her.
Yeah.
He also has extra angel blood in him because Valentine fed it to his mother when she was pregnant with him. So he also has extra angel blood in him like Clary does. But instead of being able to draw runes like she does, it just makes him stronger and faster than other people. So he's an extra good fighter compared to other Shadowhunters because he has more angel blood in him. Have I emphasized enough how ridiculous this is?
Clearly you haven't. No fucking idea.
The extra angel blood thing, just it makes me laugh. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we're touching on the ridiculous things. Once we get into the cringe, oh dear.
But yeah, also Jace and Clary have a special bond with each other because they both have extra angel blood in them. For some reason. I don't think that's ever explained.
I mean, I feel I'm jumping the gun, but oh dear. Can we just get right into it, please?
Okay, so let's talk about the incest.
Oh my God.
Okay, so sorry to everyone who's listening to this and has no idea what the plot to these books are. So the first book, like I said, takes place over the course of about 2 weeks. Clary is, I guess we're just talking about plot now. But Clary is introduced.
We're all over the place. Everyone knows what the structure is. It's not set. We're good.
It's fine.
Yeah,
but so in the first book, Clary is introduced to the world of Shadowhunters when she witnesses Jace, Alec, and Izzy murder someone in a nightclub. He was a demon though, so it's fine. He's a demon though, so it's fine.
Yeah, completely justifiable.
And yeah, so then she basically finds out she's a Shadowhunter, the superior race, as it were. That was sarcasm, by the way. I'm just quoting the books. or paraphrasing what the books really have to say. But yeah, so she meets Jace. Again, he's so handsome. He has golden hair and golden eyes and golden skin, and he's really strong. And I thought he was 17 in the first book, but I'm looking at his like fandom page, and it says that he's the same age as Clary. So I guess he's also 15 in the first book. But he's really tall and hot and handsome and like cool and mysterious. So she falls head over heels in love with him, like at first sight. And he teaches her how to fight and like all that, and there's this budding romance between them. And then at the end of the first book, Valentine, who's the main villain, shows up, and Jace is like, oh my god, that's my father, and Clary's like, wait, but he's my father. And then Clary, I think at some point like talks to her mother, and her mother's like, oh yeah, you had a brother but he died, his name was Jonathan Christopher. And then at some point, because Jonathan is like a name that is really common in Shadowhunter stories, or like in the Shadowhunter world, like that's fun bit of lore. For some reason, everyone is named Jonathan. And then so Jace is like, oh my god, my name is Jonathan Christopher. I go by Jace because it's like a reading of my initials, JC, Jace. So they're like, oh my god, we're siblings. So they break up, but then they keep kind of pursuing each other over the course of the next two books, while fully believing that they are fully blood siblings. Like, what else is there to say? It's incest.
I feel like
there's
everyone that I know of brings up this, whether they know about the books or not. Like, it almost feels like beating a dead horse talking about the incest, but it's fucking incest.
And then here's the thing. Fans of these books will be like, okay, but it's not actually incest, because in the third book, you find out that Jace is not actually Clary's brother. I almost said sister. Brother. They're not siblings. He was, Valentine killed his parents and then adopted him after Jocelyn and Clary ran away. So he was only raised by her father. And Clary has another actual brother whose name is Jonathan. And he's actually in love with her also, and sexually assaults her and kisses her while knowing that they're siblings. And she is also attracted to him, even knowing that he is her brother. So there is actual incest in these books. I would just like to say that. Just because Jace and Clary aren't related doesn't mean that there's not incest in these books.
Oh,
there is incest in these books.
Oh my god. I didn't know about there was actual incest. Oh my god. Like,
you didn't know that?
No, I only read to City of Glass.
That's fair. I don't remember what book Jonathan was introduced in.
And like, here's the thing: if Shadowhunters fans like are groaning in their seats right now, thinking, "Oh yeah, it was it wasn't actually incest or something." It was like, it was clarified after 2 books. After City of Bones and City of Ashes, it was finally clarified. Apparently, in City of Glass, that is quite frankly 3 books too many.
That's like, again, they find out in quotes that they're siblings, in quotes, at the end of the first book. Throughout the whole second book, they think they're siblings. It's somewhere in the third book that they find out that they're not siblings. Jonathan, I don't remember what book he was part of. But, like, Jonathan / Sebastian, he goes by Sebastian for a while, too, is Clary's actual brother, and actively pursues her throughout all of the books that he's in.
Oh my god. This was a book, everybody. This was a New York best-selling Times series. Not that really means anything, but like, it had a movie, It has a TV series. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
The authentic observer in this series goes into this really well in more detail, but like Sebastian / Jonathan, his name is confusing. He is like heavily romanticized in these books. Like which is problematic because A, he's the villain, and B, he is pursuing his little sister as a romantic partner. But he's like described the same way as like a love interest would be. Like he's Jace. He's Jace, but actually Clary's brother. Like they're the same character, except Sebastian's a little bit more evil.
Oh my god.
I'm not joking. They have the same personality.
I don't doubt it. I really do not doubt it. Oh my god. Here I was deadass thinking, oh shit, this episode's gonna be fun. No, fucking incest ruined it.
I don't know what you wanted. Or what you expected.
I don't know either, but I guess I'm getting a little bit too off track.
Oh yeah.
Does this other kind of shit happen in Infernal Devices and Dark Artifices?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, let's
I actually want to talk a little bit more about Jonathan / Sebastian before we move on.
Yeah, all right.
He is also a Nephilim, but unlike his siblings, yes, I'm just gonna call both of them his siblings because let's be real.
That's so fucked up. Like the fact that you have to do that is so fucked.
Unlike Jace and Clary, instead of having extra angel blood, he has demon blood in his body because Valentine fed his wife demon blood while she was pregnant with him. So he has demon blood, which turns him into he's basically like possessed by evil demonic energy. Like he's literally pure evil, basically.
Oh no. Okay, well, I guess that's Jonathan in a very brief nutshell. He sounds great.
Yeah, he murders a lot of people. I didn't really talk about Valentine, but like Valentine is his father, obviously. We've been over that. Valentine's evil plan was to kill all the downworlders and turn all the humans into Shadowhunters using the mortal cup, which, like, if you put angel blood in the mortal cup and then a person drinks it, they will either ascend into a Nephilim or they'll just, like, burn to ashes and die instantly. One or the other.
Which is, I admit, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. You don't know which until you do it. Jonathan's evil plan is to turn all the Shadowhunters into evil Shadowhunters by feeding them demon blood in the Infernal Cup, which is the mortal cup but corrupted.
Okay, never mind. I take back what I said.
Yeah, he's the villain for like the second trilogy of the Mortal Instruments. His plan is the same as his father's plan, but more evil.
Yeah, he's got both his index fingers up to his skull. Oh my god.
Anyway, so that's like those characters. Do we want to talk about the other characters in the Mortal Instruments, or should we jump on to the next trilogy?
Let's briefly touch on Simon and then go into Valentine, because I know you wanted to talk about Valentine.
Okay, so Simon is Clary's best friend. I kind of already went over this, but he's like a little bit about what his story is, but he's in love with Clary. Clary doesn't know this for some reason, even though it's like really obvious. But he ends up like following her into the shadow world, or the down world, sorry. Whatever it's called, meets the Shadowhunters. For some reason Izzy's like obsessed with him and never really explained why. But then but also he's like way in over his head because he's actually human. He gets turned into a vampire sometime in the first book. I think it's in the first book. I'm pretty sure it's in the first book.
If that's in book 1, oh my god.
Yeah, he becomes a vampire, has to deal with that. Basically gets kicked out of his house by his very religious mother, who's like, when she finds out, because it's like the worst thing that he could be. I think there's like a weird plot point where he's like the only vampire that can walk in the sun, because, you know, wouldn't be a YA book without all the potential love interests being super special and unique and different from everyone else and not like other girls.
Fucking Edward Cullen could never. He could... God damn it.
Oh my god. Yeah, so he's the only vampire that can go in the sun. I think it was because he like drank a Shadowhunter's blood, but I don't actually remember. It's been too long. But that's the thing. Anyway, in one of the books, he starts dating Izzy and Maya at the same time.
Oh my. Okay, wait.
Yes.
Why?
Because these books are about love triangle drama. That's why. Anyway, they both find out about it and are pissed, so they both dump him. And then they don't start dating each other, which is like a missed opportunity in my opinion.
Yeah, that'll show him. Fucking God.
Izzy gets back together with him like pretty quick though, while Maya goes back to her abusive ex.
Thanks, Cassandra Clare.
And then we get to talk about my favorite scene briefly. My favorite scene in the whole series.
Yeah, go.
So there's a scene in one of the books in like the second trilogy of the Mortal Instruments where
Fucking Boomerang did it. No.
Yeah, exactly. Jason, Clary, Izzy, and Simon and Alec are going to a demon realm, one of several, to look for Magnus, who is Alec's ex-boyfriend at the time, though they're both still in love with each other. But they broke up for stupid reasons, I think. I don't remember. All the relationships in these books are so unhealthy.
Oh yeah. When you have the benchmark main love story starting off with incest, I don't really have high expectations.
Well, their love story started off, Alec and Magnus started off with biphobia, so, you know, also a great milestone.
Oh, yeah! Great job! Fuck!
But, and also low-key incest, actually, because...
Fucking hell!
In the books, I think they dropped this in the show, which thank God. But in the books, in the first book, it's like heavily. I think it's actually outright stated that Alec is in love with Jace, who is, might I remind everyone, Alec's brother. Like they've been friends, or they've lived as brothers for like years. They're brothers.
I'd like to apologize because I'm very close to the mic right now, but oh my fucking God, what the fuck? I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, but then he meets Magnus and it's all great. You know, except that Magnus is bisexual and Alec has a problem with that for some reason. Anyway, so at this point in the book, Magnus has been kidnapped by his demon father, Asmodeus. And so Alec and Jason, Clary, and Simon and Izzy go to the demon realm that Asmodeus is from to rescue him. And they're like attacked by a bunch of demons, so they go into this cave to hide out for a while. And poor Alec is there like fifth wheeling with his siblings and their partners. This is like completely irrelevant to this part of the story, but I just think it's really funny. So Alec and Izzy and Simon are hanging out in one cave. Jason and Clary go off alone to a different cave. And they decide to have sex for the first time in this cave in a demon realm. And as they're like, you know, getting it on, Jace pulls a condom out of his pocket. Because he just brought one with him just in case.
All right, that's it. All the socials are in the description below. We're fucking.
This is actually relevant to Simon's story, though, I promise. So
There's more.
They rescue Magnus, but in order to leave the demon realm for like some contrived reason, someone has to like give up their memories of the shadow world for some reason. So Simon's like, oh, I'll do it. No, or they have to give up their like immortality. Because warlocks are immortal in this world. I don't think I mentioned that yet. But warlocks are immortal, vampires are also immortal. So it's kind of hinted that Magnus will have to give up his immortality. But then Simon's like, oh, I'll do it. So he basically becomes not a vampire. In this process, he also loses all of his memories of the downworld. But then it's okay, because at the end of the book, Izzy goes and finds him. And he's like, oh, maybe I do remember you. And then they have like this thing going on. They start dating again. And then he goes to the Shadowhunter Academy and becomes a Shadowhunter. and you'll never guess what his last name changes to when he becomes a Shadowhunter.
Surprise me. What is it?
Lovelace. The reason he chooses this name, because I actually did read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy for some reason. The reason he chose this name is because he was friends with this dude who was named Lovelace, who was also going to the Shadowhunter Academy to be a Shadowhunter, because he was like a mundane who was adopted by Shadowhunters, so he wanted to like become a Shadowhunter, but he turned into ashes when he drank from the Mortal Cup. So Simon took his name to like honor him.
Wait, if Simon is gonna honor a person that like apparently passed away, but he had his memories erased.
No, he got his memories back by that point.
I was about to say, it's like, isn't that a plot hole?
No, this was like someone he was like friends with at the Shadowhunter Academy.
Okay. Okay.
And who died right in front of him. It's not a plot hole, don't worry. I actually kind of like Simon as a character. I'm not gonna lie. Like he's like, you know, besides the cheating and being an asshole there thing, like he's a very fun character. Like he's witty and sarcastic, and you know, for Cassandra Clare, he's like one of her better written characters in my opinion.
Do you want to touch on Valentine then and elaborate on if it's a good character or not? Oh, okay. I guess at this point, honestly, I guess
Valentine's a bad villain.
I'd like to state at this point that we are about an hour and a half into our recording, and whether or not we're going to touch on everyone else in the Mortal or everyone else in the other series, that's still up for debate. But yeah, I that's just full transparency. Because we still have, we have to touch on controversies. We have to touch on like fucking, and we've been doing a lot of 2.5 hour episodes lately. So
sorry, I'll try and keep this short. Valentine's a bad villain.
All right.
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. Okay.
He's
sweet.
a bad villain.
Okay. That's gonna be a wonderful timestamp for people who are watching on YouTube. They're gonna be like, "Oh, an elaboration on Valentine." Wait, the fuck? It's only 30 seconds. Okay.
Do you want me to elaborate? This will take us into controversies a little bit.
Go ahead. Wait. Do you want to touch on any other? You know what? Just go touch on Valentine. I'm not familiar with the other stories.
I will want to talk about the characters in the Infernal Devices, but we can do that later.
Yeah, okay.
If there's time.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead then. I don't want to waste any more time.
So, in order to elaborate on why I think Valentine is a bad villain, we kind of have to talk about the Cassandra Clare's plagiarism accusations. There are two main series that she has been accused of plagiarizing. One of them is called the Dark Hunter series by Sherilyn Kenyon. I've never read these books. I think this is the right book, the right series. But like, yeah. So she was accused of plagiarizing that with the whole like hunters that hunt demons thing. You can kind of see it in the name, like Dark Hunter, Shadow Hunter. So like you can kind of see where that one comes from. The other one that she's been highly accused of plagiarizing is Harry Potter.
Oh boy.
If you know a little bit about like Cassandra Clare's background as a writer, she was like a pretty big fan fiction writer way back in the day. Wrote a lot of Harry Potter fan fiction. Was most well known for a series called the Draco Trilogy, which was a story about Draco and Ginny falling in love.
What? What?
Also, allegedly, I'm saying allegedly because I don't know, like I've heard this, but I can't confirm it. Allegedly, she also wrote a smutty one-shot called The Mortal Instruments that was about Ron and Ginny. Allegedly. But back to the Draco trilogy.
I need to sit with that for a minute. Just go on.
Yeah, so back to the Draco trilogy. This is where you can see the similarities to her books. Jace is a white blonde dude with daddy issues. Draco's a white blonde dude with daddy issues. Ginny's like a redhead with like a bit of a snarky personality. Ginny's a redhead with a bit of a snarky personality. And like once you like start thinking about it, you start drawing parallels. Like for example, Lucian Greymark is another character in the Shadowhunter books. He's a werewolf who acts as like a mentor / father figure to the main character. He seems pretty obviously similar to Remus Lupin from the Harry Potter books. As for Valentine is just Voldemort written by someone who doesn't know what his motivations are. Like the reason I think Valentine is a bad villain is you don't really understand what his reasons are. He's just kind of like bad for the sake of being bad. And like, sometimes that works as like, as we talked about in our villains episode yesterday, sometimes villains are just bad for the sake of being bad. But where this fails is that Cassandra Clare tries to like explain why he is the way he is and like give him motivations while giving him no motivation. He just thinks Shadowhunters are the superior race, and so he tries to turn everyone into Shadowhunters and kill everyone that doesn't want to be. Because, this is the same plot as Voldemort. It's about blood purity and like racial superiority. And like the similarities are obvious. I just want to. This is like a silly thing, but if you type out like Valentine and Voldemort like beside each other, they have like the same number of letters and both of them start with V, which like is stupid, but I think it's funny. And then you also have like Valentine was again a student at the Shadowhunter Academy, which is, the prestigious school where Shadowhunters go to learn how to be Shadowhunters, where he met a bunch of followers. He was super charismatic, and he had a group of followers called the Circle, which is a terrible name for something. Like that's besides the point. He's like very clearly just Voldemort. I think he even looks similar.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. I as a podcast host, I wish I could elaborate on it, but like, fuck that.
But like, do you see it?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sitting with that thought right now, and holy shit.
Valentine is just Voldemort written by someone who doesn't understand how to write characters.
Okay. Yep. That. Yeah. I agree.
But yeah, that's one of the controversies about her books as well is the plagiarism accusations. Which like I don't think they're, again, I haven't read the Dark Hunter book, so I can't speak to that. As to Harry Potter, it seems very much like the similarities are just characters and a little bit of like the villain and the plot in that perspective. But like otherwise I don't think they're that similar. But then you also have the argument of how similar is too similar, and also if your characters are based on someone else's characters, they're probably not very good characters.
Yeah. I think it's something that Gabe had said previously on a recording. It's like if you base if you're writing, fuck, I can't remember what he said, but it's like if you're writing something that you like based on just one other thing that you like, and that's it, then that's just opening the door more for problems, I think, than it is an original story. Because then at that point, it's pretty obvious that it's just not your story.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for fan fiction is kind of the whole point of it. It's not your story. It's more or less just what you do with what's already been provided. But in your own original story, like, dude.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. I obviously am a big advocate for fan fiction. I think fan fiction is great. And so like, I have no issue with her having been a fan fiction writer at all. Though she was, I'm pretty sure, kicked off of the site she was publishing on for accusations of plagiarism. But
Okay.
regardless, I have nothing against fan fiction or fanfic writers. I actually love fan fiction. I read it way too often. But when you're trying to pass something off as your own work and it's clearly not, that's where there's an issue.
It's also a very big issue when you suddenly become a multi-millionaire because of it.
Yeah. But I think that's the Mortal Instruments covered.
Yeah, it's the Mortal Instruments dissected. Video essay done.
Do we want to jump to the Infernal Devices?
Yes.
Because I have some words about the characters in these books. I've talked about Will Herondale before, I'm pretty sure.
Uh-huh. It is in the episode where we have... It's our least favorite characters episode where we swore so much we needed a swear counter.
Yeah. He's a choice. Anyway, so the Infernal Devices are like love triangle 101, basically. That's what the books are about. They follow Tessa Gray, who is she's a warlock, but she's like half Shadowhunter, half demon. Like her mother was a Shadowhunter, her father was a demon, which is like explicitly stated to be like not possible in this universe, and the only reason it worked is because her mother was like switched at birth and was raised by humans, and so was never touched by like the stele that, you know, gives a Shadowhunter their runes. So, and because of that, it somehow managed to make a half demon, half Shadowhunter warlock. It's really convoluted.
It makes sense to someone.
So it follows Tessa. She's from New York, but her brother went to London. This takes place in like Victorian London. So her brother went to London and is like, hey, come join me in London. So she goes to London, and is introduced to Will Herondale and Jem Carstairs. who make up the love triangle.
Like, what? Okay, wait, I'm sorry. Just to...
It's the names, isn't it?
It's the name, specifically Carstairs. That is like, it is unironically the funniest name I've ever heard.
Have you never heard it before?
Like, I've heard of Emma Carstairs, like, I've heard of the main, like, I've heard of the character, but, like, really sitting with that, like, really sitting with it, it's so much.
Yeah. Jem is technically Emma's ancestor, except I don't think he ever had children, so they share a common ancestor, I guess is a better way to put it.
Oh, God. All right.
So Tessa, Will, Jem. That's the love triangle. Will is okay, I'll start with Tessa. Tessa's a fine character. She's kind of unremarkable. She likes to read. That's her not like other girls' trait, is she likes to read, which, you know, that's so relatable to every girl that is reading the book she's in. Because, you know, no girls like reading, except a lot of them.
It's the dry delivery. I hope this stings Shadowhunters fans.
So she's a fine character. I don't dislike her as much as I dislike Clary. But I don't like her either, you know? She's just kind of there.
Yeah, she exists. The plot moves forward because of her. Unless she's passive, in which case, oh fuck.
I honestly don't remember enough about the books to remember if she like is an active or passive protagonist.
Alright, well, that's a tangent for something else.
Yeah. But yes, so her love interest. I'm gonna start with Jem because Jem is actually a character that I kind of like. Wow, impressive that one of those exists. Jem is like.
Oh my god! All right, Alex with the knife, fucking going in for the kill already.
Listen, I'm trying to be nice. I like this character.
The fact that like this is you being nice is oh my god.
So Jem is a sweetheart. I talked about him earlier because he's the half Chinese, half English character. And he's also, here we go back into like problematic depictions of characters of color. He's a drug addict. That's like his main plot point is that he was introduced to, what's it called? There's like this demon poison called Yin Fen. I'm probably not pronouncing that. I do not speak Chinese at all. Sorry to anyone listening who knows how to pronounce that properly. But it's called Yin Fen. And it's this poison it was given to him as a child, and he became reliant on it, essentially. And this is another thing. Because he was so reliant on it, he was like really sick and slowly dying. It also makes his skin really pale and his hair really pale and like bleaches all of the color out of him. Which, you know, when you have a character of color and then you take away those parts of their identity to make them look white, it's also kind of problematic, in my opinion.
That kind of is really doing a lot of legwork.
Yeah. But he's like a really nice character. He's like one of the few characters in her books that I can actually say like he's a nice person. Like he's nice to everyone. He's friendly with everyone. You know, when I was reading the books, I was like, okay, I can understand why Tessa would fall in love with this guy because honestly, same.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Will. Will Herondale. So I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to like reiterate all my issues with Will. Will is an asshole. He is like such a dick to absolutely every single person except Will, which I'll get back to, or except Jem, which I'll get back to.
He's an asshole to everyone except himself. All right, that. Oh boy.
No. He's a dick to everybody except for Jem. The only reason he's not a dick to Jem is because Jem's dying. That's canon, by the way.
Oh my god.
The only reason he's not awful to Jem is because Jem is dying, so he doesn't feel like he has to be awful to him.
Jesus Christ.
The reason Will has a reason why he's an asshole. Basically, when he was a kid, he opened a book or something and released this demon who killed his older sister. And then the demon was like, I'll kill everyone you ever love. So then he basically was like, well, I can't let anyone ever love me because then they'll die. Which is such a contrived reason to have like an asshole bad boy main character. Can I just say that? So he was basically an asshole to everyone because he didn't want anyone to love him, which didn't work for some reason because everyone loved him anyway for some reason. There's Can you hear the salt?
I can taste it.
There's literally a part in like somewhere in one of the books where he basically compares Tessa to a prostitute.
Oh my god.
And she still marries
fucking
this
god.
Dude. She marries this dude after that.
Oh.
Like
what?
I don't think he ever apologizes for it, at least like in the book either. Like he never apologizes for being an awful person. Which I'm like, you know, if he apologized and like actively worked to make up for the way he treated people, then like I would be like, okay, fine, whatever. But we never see that in the book because that's not what matters. Like he's an asshole and then he's not, so everyone's happy. I think I also talked about this series a bit in the queer baiting episode, and if I didn't, I should have because oh my god. Will and Jem are so heavily queer baited that it's not even funny. Like I said, like Jem is the only person that Will is nice to. And I haven't talked about the Parabatai bond yet, but in the Shadowhunter world, there's these things called Parabatai, which are like two Shadowhunters who are like they make an oath and like bond to each other.
Oh, fantastic! A mating bond. Okay.
Not very specifically not a mating bond, actually. That's the plot of the Dark Artifices, is that it's not a mating bond. And when it becomes one, it's really problematic because she needed another way to shove forbidden love into her story.
Oh no.
But Parabatai are basically like they can like feel each other's emotions. You know, when one of them's injured, they can feel it. But they're specifically like it's specifically like a brotherly relationship, I think, or like, you know, like they're partners in fighting.
Right.
Like that's what it is. Jem and Will are Parabatai. I'd also like to point out actually that almost all, if not all of the Parabatai in her book series have had some sort of like romantic and or sexual feelings towards each other. Like Clary and Simon are Parabatai and they dated for a while. Jace and Alec are Parabatai, and like I said, like Alec was in love with Jace before the start of the first book. And then in the Dark Artifices, the series follows Emma and Julian, who are Parabatai and also in love with each other. So like the Parabatai bond is kind of heavily romanticized in the books, whether she intended it to be that way or not. And again, just like the way Will and Jem act around each other is so like obviously queer baiting. Like Like, I don't even know how to expand on it because I'm just like, yeah, it's queer baiting.
Yeah, and not really in a good kind of way either. I mean, like, queer baiting in itself isn't really great, but like it's definitely a really bad example by the sounds of it.
I can't confirm this, but I do remember reading at some point that she said she took the idea of like Will and Jem's relationship and like the queer baiting aspects of it from John and Sherlock's relationship in BBC Sherlock. Like I said, I can't confirm it because I haven't been able to find it since, but I remember reading that at some point.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I have a tear in my eye. Oh my God. What the fuck? Oh my God.
Anyway, I talked about this with one of my friends recently, but this series is one of like so the way the love triangle is resolved, Jem dies, but he doesn't actually die. Instead, he's turned into a silent brother. I think that's what they're called, which is like an order of like monks in the Shadowhunter universe. They like sew their mouths closed so they can't speak, and they like protect knowledge and like act as like judges and stuff.
Man, he got cucked. Rip. Effing chat.
So Jem becomes a silent brother, but and then becomes immortal somehow. I don't remember if that's just like a thing the silent brothers are, or if that was like there was another reason for it. But he becomes immortal because he's now a silent brother. He can't like take a wife. So Tessa marries Will instead. They name one of their children after him. And then, Will grows old and dies. Tessa doesn't because she's immortal. And then, at the end of the Shadowhunter, or at the end of the Mortal Instrument series, I think Clary, gets, a bunch more power or something and somehow turns turns Jem into not a silent brother somehow. And then Tessa's still alive and he's still alive, so then they get together after that happens, because he's not a silent brother anymore. Isn't that convenient?
Amazing. I'm so happy for them.
It's like one of those things that's like kind of a weird trend that I've noticed, in that sometimes a love triangle will be resolved by one of them being immortal and the girl is also immortal, so she just marries the mortal guy, waits for him to die, and then marries the immortal guy and is with him forever. I've read a couple stories that ended that way, and it's kind of weird.
Oh my God.
And you could be less of a coward and just make them polyamorous, but I guess you're a coward, so you won't.
Yeah, basically for everyone out there, if Alex is an editor and she writes coward on your thing, that is a deep personal insult and you should take it accordingly.
I just think coward is an underused insult. It's a really good insult.
It is, yeah.
As for the plot of these books, I think they were about this dude who made these clockwork creatures that started killing people. But honestly, the plot of these books, of all of her books, I find really unmemorable. Because I feel like the stories aren't focused on the plot. They're focused on the love triangles and the angst and the drama of relationships.
Yeah, and that annoys the hell out of me now that you're talking about it, because it's so interesting, the ideas that she presents, the ideas of the Shadowhunters, authentic or not. the runes giving each other, like giving everyone their their distinct powers and shit, like clockwork monsters. I don't know what the fuck happens in the Dark Artifices, but like there's so many interesting ideas that is at hand with Cassandra Clare's stories, and you focus it on the fucking love triangle.
And like, here's the thing. I have nothing against like romance stories, which is what I would classify these as. Like, there's nothing wrong with like reading romance or writing romance or enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
What annoys me about these books is that they're pretending to not be that. They're like, no, we're a urban fantasy book with like really intense and dark plot lines. And they're not.
Bullshit.
If we want to talk about the Dark Artifices, from what I remember, again, I haven't read the third book in this series, but from what I remember, the plot has to do with, there's this warlock, what is his name? Let me find it. Malcolm Fade. He's the High Warlock of Los Angeles.
Malcolm Fade.
Malcolm Fade.
That sounds like a fucking cologne.
I mean, you're not wrong. But yeah, he's the... Why are you hiding spoilers? Okay. But yeah, so he's the High Warlock of Los Angeles. Like, the High Warlock works with like the institutes to like open portals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And solve like their magical problems. Magnus Bane was the High Warlock of New York for a while, I think. But anyway, Malcolm is he's the villain of these books. And I'm pretty sure he's he's not mortified. What? Motivated. That's the word I meant. He's motivated.
If anyone's mortified, it's us too.
He's motivated because his girlfriend died. And he's upset about it. That's why he's the bad guy, because his girlfriend died. Yeah, his girlfriend, Annabelle Blackthorne, who is, for some reason she decided to attach these books to like, I think Edgar Allan Poe. So this Annabelle is supposedly the same Annabelle that Annabelle Lee is about.
Wasn't Annabelle Lee Poe's cousin or something?
I don't know the details. Not in the Shadowhunter universe.
Thank God. I can't deal with any more incest, dude.
But yeah, so he basically hates Shadowhunters because his girlfriend, the Shadowhunter, I guess they stole something. She was arrested and then tortured. So he hates Shadowhunters, so he decides to murder a bunch of children about it. So, you know, the plot of these books is it's about love and being sad about your relationships.
All right, recap over. I'm done.
You know, if we want to talk about the characters, we can also do that. Emma's the main character. I just find her annoying. She's
How so?
very...
Does she also check off the YA protagonist checklist?
She's more like the Aelin type of YA protagonist.
Oh no.
Than like the Bella Swan type. So, you know, she's the hot and she knows it, but also doesn't respect herself type. So, you know, she sleeps around with a lot of guys. And she's like a strong female character who's really good at fighting. Like, she's like that kind of character. I just did not enjoy reading about her. Like, she was always just like, she's kind of the opposite in Clary in that she always gives off this vibe of like, I'm better than everyone else. like I'm the best fighter and all the guys are in love with me. Like that kind of, she's like, that's how she is.
Yeah, which in retrospect is fine to write about. It's just overdoing it makes it campy.
Yeah,
It's a pretty general thing. Like if you overwrite the fact that your character doesn't believe in their physical appearance, that's too much. So it's the same thing with vanity.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you're gonna laugh at this, Dean. Her mother's name is apparently Cordelia Townsend. The silence. Anyway, Julian is the other main character in this book series.
Oh my god.
He's the third oldest Blackthorn sibling. His older siblings being Mark and Helen. You know, Helen locked away in some freezing place in Russia, and Mark being tortured by fairies. He's the next sibling. And he's kind of like Tessa to me. Like, he's fine. I don't dislike him, but I don't really like him either. He's just kind of there. Mm-hmm. He likes painting. There's a personality trait for you.
Ah, yes. Paint with stick. Character. No.
But then this also brings me to like the other thing that I find irritating about her writing, about Cassandra Clare's writing, is at the end of the second book in this trilogy, which is Lord of Shadows, one of Julian's younger sisters dies. Which, like, you know, killing off characters is fine.
It's a pretty routine thing, especially in YA.
It's like a thing. But the thing is, she was very obviously killed off for the drama of it, for the shock factor, rather than for like actual, like, to further the story in some way.
God.
This is something that's also talked about in the Authentic Observer series on this. But like, a thing that Cassandra Clare tends to do a lot in her books is she will, like, you know, not a lot of plot happens, but then she'll end the book on a cliffhanger so that you want to read the next book to find out what happens. This was a case of that. Like, so in the first book in this trilogy, Livy was not a character. Like, she was there, but she didn't really do anything. Then in the second book, she was suddenly like really important to the plot, so that when she died, it would hurt more, I guess. But like, yeah, it's just like, it's built up to make you feel bad about her, but like, also she's not an important character at all. Like, she was literally just killed off for the shock factor and no other, and like to make you pick up the next book, and for no other reason. Which, like, yeah, it's irritating. It yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be hella irritated too if I'd read these books, but I mean,
yeah, this is something that like she does multiple times. Like in the first trilogy, there's a character named Max, who is Izzy and Alex's younger brother, and he is also killed off for the shock factor, because she won't kill off like her main characters. You know, the characters that die are the ones that like one of her main characters cares about. Like, you know, so they'll kill off Max, who's like one of the main character's siblings, or she'll kill off Livy, who's one of the main character's siblings, or she killed off like Raphael, who was one of her only characters of color, and also, someone who was important to Simon, and she killed off what's the name? Who was I thinking of? Like, that's like something she does. Like, she'll just kill off, or Jessamine. Jessamine was another one that she killed off that I was upset about because I liked Jessamine. Well, like, she'll kill off characters that she doesn't care about, but that her characters care about. Because then there's like this illusion of like the reader caring about them, but it's just there for the shock factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to shock factor, the way that I've always interpreted that as is if people are feeling like you just killed off a character just to shock, then that means you didn't do your job in building that character to sing. That pretty much means you didn't build your character enough to invest in them.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's something to be said about killing characters for shock value, but it's about, like, I'll just say, like, in Game of Thrones, for example, lots of characters are killed off for shock value. But, like, the reason, like, their deaths mean something to the plot, Like, he's not afraid to kill off main characters that you have gotten attached to throughout the story. And the character deaths in Game of Thrones are also, like, the consequences of their own actions, usually.
Right.
They poked their nose into something they shouldn't have, or they overestimated their own ability. Or whatever.
Yeah, I got you.
And so, like death in stories is supposed to, like, mean something, even if their meaning is, death is something that happens. We don't talk about Harry Potter very much on this podcast for obvious reasons. But, like, in Harry Potter, when characters die, it's to show, like, the horrors of war, and, like, characters that you really care about in Harry Potter die. And it's heartbreaking because, like, you care about those characters, and it shows, like, the messiness of war. In Cassandra Clare's books, characters die in war, but they're not characters you care about, and they're literally just there for the shock value. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like,
yeah,
she'll spend like a few chapters building up this one character to try and make you care about them, and then kill them off because she doesn't want to commit to, like, killing off characters she actually cares about.
Yeah.
Her self-inserts.
Coward.
Like,
you coward.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't want to kill off her perfect Mary Sue self-insert Clary.
There's the shade. There we go.
Listen, Cassandra Clare, Clary, like, I'm pretty sure she's a redhead too. Like,
yeah, fair enough. I think that just about covers it. Actually, I was about to add on to something, but, like, really, that just about covers, like, the main stories themselves. I guess to kind of close off, we can kind of critique this, like, the work overall, right? Like, we can just kind of come to our own thoughts and opinions on, we were critiquing each series individually, but, like, as a whole, now that we can now kind of start looking more openly. And despite everything that I've, like, in spite of everything that I've listened to, I don't think necessarily that Cassandra Clare is a bad author. Like, she presents a lot of interesting ideas. It's just that the execution a lot of the time, or at least in everything that I've been hearing so far, has not worked. And there's nothing more upsetting than failed promises.
Like, for real. It's always like the stuff that you're like, oh, that sounds really cool. Oh, it's not executed well. Those are always the most disappointing stories.
Yeah, like
the ones with potential that goes nowhere.
Yeah, like a thing, like a group of like monster hunters residing in a church as children of angels, pretty much. That sounds hella interesting. And how they get their powers is interesting. The rune magic system is interesting.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff you could explore with that. Like, again, I'm taking stuff from the Authentic Observer series, but Shadowhunters are trained from birth basically to be soldiers. Like, they're raised their whole life to be fighters. And it'd be so interesting if she explored what that means for a person. What if someone doesn't want to fight? It's kind of exploitative to, force children to fight. It's stated in the series that most Shadowhunters don't live long lives because they spend so much of it fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, a lot of them get married and have children really young. Because there's just so much death and they don't have time to waste. And the implications of that are so interesting, and instead she chooses to focus on love drama, relationship drama.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very disappointing, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, personally putting my own hatred for love triangles and shit on the side, which, to be honest, isn't always a justifiable hatred. When you have a plot but have a love triangle be one of the most dominant things about the story overall, that is really personally all that I can pay attention to. And I guess upon reflection, looking back on at least just Jace, Clary, and Simon's little love triangle, I fucking hate it. And the thing is, it resides over so much of the character's development, but it never really feels like it's interesting. It kind of just feels angsty and doesn't really flesh out these characters in a way. If it's just pointless melodrama all the time, regardless of, saving the fucking world and shit. No. No. Why not flesh out why not flesh out your magic system a little bit more? Why not flesh out some of the lore? Feel free to show Clary interacting with more magic, I guess. Feel free to expand your world a little bit. Obviously don't start over explaining and go into nothing, but
The thing is, I didn't even get into some of the aspects of her world building that I actually find really interesting. The mortal instruments themselves are a really cool concept. But nothing really ever comes of them. They're kind of important in the first series, and then they're just kind of forgotten after that. Which is disappointing, because that's a cool concept, and I'd love if there was more stuff like that explored in her books.
Yeah. If it had been fully fleshed out and delivering on its potential, we would still be calling it the Mortal Instruments series. But instead it's just Shadowhunters, which I guess is my own little peeve. I guess. Or it's my own little thing that I've noticed. It's damn, we were calling it the Mortal Instruments series. And then obviously through fleshing out, characters and stuff, it became more than that. But Alex is right. Having such interesting and intriguing objects of power could be the name of your franchise. There's nothing wrong with that. It'd certainly be interesting, but nope. I think one other thing that we didn't really get to touch on completely, and that's just because I don't have a copy of the book on me right now, but that is her style. I don't really know, or I'm not really super familiar with her style anymore, but I remember it being pretty long.
Okay, I have a copy of Clockwork Angel on me because it's the only one that I own. We could literally just open up to a random page and see what happens.
You know what? That'll be our honorable mention, or that'll be our closing segment. Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, Yeah, I think she has a little bit of a pacing issue. Like I said, the first book takes place over like 2 weeks. It's like, I want to say it's like nearly 500 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
485 hardbook, 512 paperback.
Oh my god.
Like, they're really long. Takes place over 2 weeks, and what's the plot?
Yeah. What's the plot? Fucking two siblings two siblings two siblings who aren't actually siblings love each other.
Yeah. So I do think she could cut down on the word count a little bit by, removing some of the unnecessary drama.
Yeah, it's indulgences, right?
Yeah.
Like it's it's probably like inserting these indulgences into your story, but to cite H-Bomb's Sherlock video, if you were to cut like 10-15% of that story and really make an author or a writer in general focus on what is more important, it probably would end up becoming a stronger story at the end of it. Like cutting out
Kill your darlings.
Yeah, cutting out 10-15% of an already long story, right? Maybe it's not necessary. Like if you won't sacrifice the love triangle, then you have to sacrifice the magic and the world building, which is something that like a lot of people need to consider. But I think moving forward for Cassandra Clare's stories especially, that's probably it, because there are so many interesting concepts that personally I would want to see explored more than just another love triangle and poorly represented diversity.
Yeah. Or alternatively, just accept that you're writing a love story and write a love story.
Yeah.
And don't try to masquerade it as something else.
Yeah, like if you want to just write like a love story within or between two Shadowhunters on a small mission, that could be nice.
Yeah,
right?
I've
Like
read...
keep the stakes relatively low-ish. It doesn't have to be completely world-ending.
Yeah, and like there's nothing wrong with writing like a fantasy-based romance. Like I've read some of those that are really good. But I think you have to figure out what your priorities are and focus on that and make it good.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to, have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. It's seriously like I don't want to, I guess like if I were to address Cassandra Clare directly, if like for some reason she ever gets a hold of this, just there is potential in your work, miss. I'd like to see it a little bit more. And I think not as a direct note to Cassandra Clare, but really as a general thing for everyone listening, YA as a genre has really evolved past the need for like indulgences like this, or indulgences like forbidden love, I guess, for one thing.
Ugh.
Yeah. I don't know if that's an indulgence or not, but but
Can't we just have like healthy relationships for a change?
Yeah, like I guess what I've been trying to get at is that just YA in general has become a lot more than what it was in 2007, in 2012, in 2015, 16, 17. It's a constantly evolving thing as we are becoming more aware of a whole bunch of things. And to not get too political or whatever, just it's very obvious when a book is still stuck in its times, and that isn't good for longevity. Like it's, the Mortal Instruments is one of the first is one of like the earliest successes within the YA genre, and to some degree it is warranted, to some degree it isn't. But if new audiences want to invest in this series, we probably would need just these concepts and stuff enhanced and probably treated better. Because like we had said before, it's one thing to have a checklist of diversity, but it's one thing to actually represent like different races, different ethnic, like different gender identities, different orientations. like better representing the autism spectrum too. That means a lot, especially because you are writing to young adults who don't know shit and will eat up pretty much anything you write.
Yeah, and also like body positivity and having characters with different body types and having that just be normal.
Yeah.
Your characters don't all have to look the same.
Mm-hmm. And as I guess just as another general note, if it's not going to be in your series, it's going to be in someone else's. And that isn't always what you want. So I think, yeah, that's all I have to say. Alex, is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think that concludes most of my thoughts.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of expecting, I wasn't expecting this much impartiality. I applaud you for it.
I mean, I think my point gets across without me being angry about it.
Yeah, and trust me, for everyone listening up until this point, Alex is not always slandering authors that she doesn't like. Believe me, she is not. She's definitely not like that. It's just, memes. That's not a thing. That's not a fucking good excuse. I'm sorry. But yeah, just trust that. Just trust that. When we do these breakdowns, yes, we do it for comedy, but we also do it for as critical as an analysis as it can be.
Yeah,
I had those two mixed up.
Yeah, here's a list of things not to do when you're writing your story.
Yeah, just whatever that fucking list is, I don't know. Just
don't romanticize incest. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd kind of prefer if you don't have incest at all, but sometimes it's part of a story. Just don't romanticize it, please. Write healthy relationships. Have actual diversity and representation in your books. If you're gonna world build. What else is there? Make your characters likable. I think that's most of my points.
Yeah. And if you don't do any of that, you're a coward. All right. I guess then that kind of brings us to the end of the episode. So thanks everybody for listening in. You can find all of our social media down in the description below, either individually or as part of the InkGuild. We are on TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as our home on YouTube, pretty much. We're also on Spotify now. By the time this episode goes live, likely most of season 4 would be up as well. So tune into those episodes as well as all of the ones that we have uploaded of seasons 1, 2, and 3. And with all of that being said, Alex, flip to a random. I don't want to tell you. We said what we would do for the closing segment, so I'll let you flip to a random chapter.
Should I flip to a random chapter, or
just
do you
flip
want
to a random page?
There's 476 pages in my copy of this book.
What book is it again?
Clockwork Angel. It's the first book in the Infernal Devices trilogy.
All right.
Let's open to this page. Oh, this is the start of a chapter. Okay. There's a long quote because she puts a bunch of quotes in her chapter headings for some reason. I'll just read this first paragraph. How about that? Tessa was only halfway down the corridor when they caught up to her, Will and Jem walking on either side of her. You didn't really think we weren't going to come along, did you? Will asked, raising his hand and letting the witchlight flare up between his fingers, lighting the corridor to daylight brightness. Charlotte, hurrying along ahead of them, turned and frowned but said nothing. I know you can't leave anything well enough alone, Tessa replied, looking straight ahead, but I thought better of Jem. Where Will goes, I go, Jem said good-naturedly. And besides, I'm as curious as he is. That hardly seems a subject for boasting. Where are we going? Tessa added, startled, as they reached the end of the corridor and turned left. The next hall stretched away behind them into unprepossessing shadow. What does that mean? Have we turned the wrong way? Patience is a virtue, Miss Grey, said Will.
Oh my god!
They had reached a long corridor that sloped precipitously downward. That's a mouthful. The walls were bare of tapestries or torches, and the dimness made Tessa realize why Will had carried his witchlight stone. This corridor leads to our sanctuary, said Charlotte. It is the only part of the Institute that is not on hallowed ground. It is where we meet with those who, for whatever reason, cannot enter hallowed ground. Those who are cursed, vampires, and the like. It is also often a place we choose to shelter downworlders who are in danger from demons or other denizens of the shadow world. For that reason, there are many protections placed on the doors, and it is difficult to enter or exit the room without possessing either a stele or the key. Is it a curse, being a vampire? Tessa asked. Charlotte shook her head. No, we think it is a sort of demon disease. Most diseases that affect demons are not transmissible to human beings, but in some cases, usually through a bite or a scratch, the disease can be passed on. Vampirism, lycanthropy, demon pox, said Will. And I'll end it there.
Fucking demon pox!
To be fair, the very next line is, there's no such thing as demon pox, but... Yeah. So, overall, I think her writing is sometimes a little overly wordy. Like, the next hall stretched away behind them into an unprepossessing shadow. Is unprepossessing even a word? English is an awful language. And then, again, a long corridor that sloped precipitously downward is also a little wordy. Yeah. So, overall, I'd say her writing is sometimes a little overly wordy, but otherwise pretty standard.
You know what that's like? It's like you eat a cake, you enjoy it, and then you start eating the plate. Good night, everybody.